Pyrotechnics is proudly sponsored by Fireworks Rock and Metal magazine. 164 pages packed full of interviews, reviews and features all about your favourite genres of music. Our latest edition is available from our website, fireworks-magazine.com.
Welcome at long last to another exciting, probably shameful and definitely terribly late episode of Pyrotechnics, the podcast where rock and metal doesn't just rule the roost, it kicks it over, sets fire to it, argues about why I love vinyl while it all burns in the background. Yes, we're back, eventually. As you may already know, Pyrotechnics is proudly sponsored by Fireworks Rock and Metal magazine, 164 pages of pure rock and metal goodness. But listen up, because issue 113 has sold out on our website. So if you want Schenker, Doro, Alter Bridge, Mammoth, Testament, and another 36 superb interviews in your life, and frankly, why wouldn't you? Then you can only get it as a digital edition on our website at the moment. Or if you move fast, your local TG Jones may have a printed copy left. And just to clear up some confusion, TG Jones is actually the new version of WH Smith. So it has all the same magazines in, including us. So go and see if they got a printed copy. And I know it's late, but while we're at it, Happy New Year. Here's hoping 2026 is a good one for us all, because we've clearly started it off with the organisational skills of a drummer that's lost their sense of time and rhythm. Speaking of us, I'm Pete Arnett, and as ever, I'm flanked by my two long-suffering co-hosts. First up, the editor himself, the man who keeps the whole thing vaguely professional, Dave Cockett. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Pete. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of our podcast. James and I will take over for a little bit while Pete pisses on the fire that he's just started.
And joining us, as ever, is our art editor, design wizard, and man most likely to sigh heavily during any musical disagreement, of which you can guarantee there is going to be many. Welcome, James Gaden.
Hello, everybody. Good to be back.
Now, we should probably apologise yet again, because we've been a bit naughty. This episode has taken slightly longer, shall we just say, than planned to escape into the wild. So in the interest of fairness, musical justice has been served. I personally have enjoyed 24 straight hours of Oasis on repeat. My ears are still ringing, and I've said maybe more times in this week than I have done in my entire life. Dave's just recovered from a full Royal Republic Love Cop marathon. He now instinctively air punches wherever silence occurs. How are you feeling now, Dave?
Tired.
And James was locked in the room with nothing but Ronnie Romero records playing over and over and over and over again. But the doctor ensures that his blood pressure has now reduced, so he's able to do this episode. However, he's probably going to need another lie down after this one. How are you doing, James?
Well, I have to say the padded cell is very comfortable.
So, yes, we promised to get better with these timings, mainly because none of us can take any more of this punishment, and I'm pretty sure the Geneva Convention covers this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway. Right.
James gave us that answer. I was afraid he was going to say loved up.
No chance.
Right then, let's get on to the episode itself. This one's a little different, as we're attempting something bold, something ambitious, and in all likelihood, something that could genuinely end our three friendships. We are going to try and come up with a definitive top 5 Queen albums. Well, no, not really, because there's no such thing as a definitive list, but you must admit it does sound impressive. Now, we're all massive Queen fans. We all love the band. We all respect the legacy. But can we actually agree on a top 5? The smart money says probably not, because we would argue that black is white purely to annoy one another. To be fair, it's basically our superpower. But that's the challenge. No hiding. We have to negotiate, debate, compromise, and occasionally roll our eyes so hard we can see our own brains. Some albums will be obvious. Some will be controversial. And at least one of us will definitely say, you're both wrong at least 12 times. My money's on James, to be fair. So grab a drink, strap yourselves in, and prepare for passionate arguments, questionable rankings, and the kind of musical nitpicking that only Queen fans will be able to truly appreciate. But before that, we dive headfirst into chaos. That's right, it's time for the quiz question. Right, gentlemen, pin your earlugs back. Here we go. Which group out of the following has had the most number of studio albums that peaked at number 2 in the UK charts? Your choices are Def Leppard, AC/DC, Nickelback, Metallica, and Queen. Okay, so that's Def Leppard, AC/DC, Nickelback, Metallica, Queen. So I've got the answer to this from the UK official charts.com. So again, if there's any mistakes, you can blame them and not me.
It's the mainstream charts, not the rock charts.
It's the mainstream charts, yeah. See, folks, he's always got to try and throw in a little sidestep, hasn't he? That's why he's the editor. So I'm going to let the guys stew on this one until I reveal the answer at the end of the show. And hopefully they've guessed it right. Form would say, however, probably not. Now, on with the never-ending read all about it moments as we hear what my co-hosts think about the views on the news. As you know, on the website, fireworks-magazine.com, we try and put as much news from the rock and metal world on as I can get. So go over and have a look. There's quite a few articles there, but here are a few that have grabbed my attention over the past few weeks. Rob Zombie has revealed a new single, I'm a, in brackets, rock and roller. Def Leppard have released their new single, Rejoice. Rush announced a reissue of their classic album, Grace Under Pressure. But the price that goes with it, oh my word. Orianthi has sold out Leeds concert and confirms that James Bruno is going to be a special guest on a January UK tour, which, to be fair, to sell out isn't bad at all. I know it's only one show, but it does promise great stuff. And one for Dave here, Saracen Crusader Live has been released via Escape Music. They've announced that one. Let's see what he thinks about that. So, chaps, what do we think to these? Dave, rock us with your insights.
With my insight, okay, let's start with Rush. Massive Rush fan, been a Rush fan 40-odd years, but I come back to the same old when we get to these reissues. Who wants 27 discs of cockroaches farting in the studio control room at stupid prices? I've got the originals. I've got on vinyl. I've got the CD. I'll stick with that. It's getting ridiculous, and I wonder how much Rush are actually making out of this. And it's the record companies. Okay, Leopard took me a couple of spins. Quite like it. Bodes well for if there's going to be more than just one new track in the next 5 years. So all's good on that score. Rob Zombie's interesting. Not really my cup of tea, but it was anything like that creates controversy, creates debate. So, all good. Saracen, I've heard a couple of months ago. It's actually a very good live album. Long overdue, really. So credit to Khalil and Bruce for getting that one out there. And then finally, Orianthi. Yeah, it's great news, particularly that she sold out Leeds and that the tour's doing quite well. I have heard on the grapevine, though, that it's very difficult to get hold of the album. And I'm increasingly hearing that sort of thing is you're getting bands touring and people can't get the merch.
All right.
What's the point of that?
Mm-hmm.
That has to sit fairly and squarely with the record and distribution companies.
Yes.
You get a band over here touring, for God's sake, get stuff that people can buy.
Makes sense. I mean, James, I don't get Rob Zombie. I mean, I've listened to some of his stuff. I get it, I understand what he's doing, but I just don't get him. I mean, what about you? What do you think to all this?
Same. I know he does music, he does like horror films and stuff like that, and I mean, he has his niche. It's not something that really clicks for me. I've seen him a few times with things to do with WWE and things like that. He's popped up with like theme tunes and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, okay, but I don't really understand the appeal personally. I did agree spot on with Dave's point there about Orianthi. I've heard that not just about Orianthi, but going back decades, there's been bands that have gone out on tour with the sole purpose of, we've got this to promote, and you can't get it, or they've not shipped enough, or and you're like, you have one job. You're there to sell, but it's not the band's fault. They're there, they're playing, so they should have the ability to, right, if you like it, go buy it in the foyer. Oh, we can't, there's none there.
Yeah. Somebody
wants sacking over that, quite frankly.
No, I totally agree. I mean, it doesn't make any. I had this. Funny enough, I had it there with Magnum as well at one stage. Is that they didn't bring enough stuff. They had the gig, and everyone made the rush to the table at the end. I mean, Magnum obviously a very popular band, and there was like 3 T-shirts left of extra small because everyone had just sold out and they didn't have enough stock. I mean, I can kind of get it in some respects. Obviously, it wasn't the first date on the tour, but it was a bit of a disappointment. It's one of those things, like you say. I suppose in some respects you can't, legislate for over demand and all that lot, but it was a shame. So you're right.
I understand the logistics of having to not only cart your gear around, but then the merch as well. But it is a revenue stream at the end of the day. When you've got venues taking a cut of the bar and a cut of the door and everything else, you want to be selling as much stuff as possible. So to turn up and not have stuff to sell, it's a totally missed opportunity. Like, the other end of the scale, when I saw Bryan Adams late last year, his merchandise store was huge. You could get his album on vinyl. You could get his album on CD. He had about 8 different T-shirts. You could get cups. He had that's how it's done properly at the right end of the scale. And there was people queuing. The queue to get in, the merch queue was almost as long. There was all sorts of people coming out with bags full of stuff. Sealy made a fortune doing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, just be smarter about it. And if the record company or whoever aren't supplying you with what you need, then they need to kick up the arse.
He goes a bit beyond that. I mean, the Orianthe I heard wasn't available to buy pretty much anywhere, not just at gigs. It was they may have stock at some at gigs, but there was pretty much anywhere. You couldn't get it in shops. You couldn't get it online from most places. It's ridiculous. Sorry, James, carry on.
No, but that again, then it's forcing people. They either stream it or they don't buy it. It's as simple as that. So it just seems stupid. If people, it's like the old meme, innit? Take my money. Well, we don't want it because we've got nothing to sell. It makes no sense.
That's certainly true. I mean, going back to the original point, isn't it good though that she sold out of a concert? I mean, it's nice to see that an artist comes over and can sell out. So from that point of view, I mean, putting the merch issue to one side, because to be fair, that's an ongoing argument in itself. The fact that she's sold out, I think, is absolutely superb. I mean, I know people say, but it's only Leeds, but it's still a gig that she's sold out of. So I think well played for her and well played for the promoters and the organisers in that respect.
100%. There's plenty of people who play Leeds who don't sell it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you think, guys, that the prices of these reissues is just getting stupid? I mean, somebody quoted and said they pre-ordered it at 60 quid, that Rush Grace Under Pressure. I mean, 60 quid does sound like an awful lot.
I suppose it depends what's in it. If it's like Dave said, if it's disc 1, the album remastered, disc 2, instrumental mixes, who wants them? What good are they? Or disc 3 is like the original demo version without any drums in. You might listen to that once. So it depends what's in it. If it's something like the album remastered with a brand new live show that's never been released before, plus something else, then maybe. But if it's just a bunch of, like Dave says, studio stuff that 9 times out of 10 you'd never listen to, why would you be paying big money for it?
There you go. Yeah,
it's not just the content. The content's kind of immaterial, really. I mean, all these reissues you could go back to. I mean, the thing that happens most often that pisses me off is you get bands release an album and then 6 months later you get a tour edition with extra tracks. That pisses me off big style. But it's the prices of the damn things are just getting ridiculous. If you're a Rush fan, if they're going to redo all the back catalogue like this, you're looking at thousands of pounds potentially to buy it, having bought it all originally.
Yeah, very much.
Where's that money going? I suspect it ain't going into the Rush coffers, or most of it isn't.
As I say, and there's the golden question. Yeah, no, totally right, absolutely right. Thing is, people will buy them, and as long as people keep buying them, then obviously they're going to keep on getting released.
Yeah.
Right, let's draw a line under that. Like I said, listeners and viewers, go and have a look at the website. Plenty of news, plenty of different genres as well that we're covering. So, hopefully you'll find something that you like. And as the guy said, you might find something new as well. Right, it's that time again. Short rants, big opinions, questionable timekeeping. Welcome to the 60-second sound-off. That's right, 60 seconds will be on the clock and absolutely no guarantee it will be respected. First up, Dave steps into the spotlight, unloading on the state of recording contracts. Like I said, in theory, it's 1 minute rant. In reality, when Dave gets going, time becomes optional, and James and I start getting very nervous indeed. However, let's see what happens. So I'm going to put 60 seconds on the stopwatch. Dave, are you ready?
Yeah.
Off you go.
Okay, guys, I'm going to flip this because generally it's the labels that get the heat. I'm going to flip this onto the bands. Firstly, any band, don't assume you're going to get a recording budget. Don't assume that they're going to help you with promotion in any real useful way. Don't assume you'll get any tour support. Don't assume that you're going to be top of their priority list in terms of over other artists on their labels or over you becoming before them. Chances are none of that's going to happen. You need to wake up to that. Do assume that any contract that you sign is going to be loaded in their favour, not yours. Also, Do assume that any advance that they do give you, however small or pitiful or meaningless, is going to be recouped in full, plus interest, before you see a penny. Take control. Do it yourselves. Make sure you know what you're signing.
Well, in your case, 61.71 seconds. Yeah, we'll give you the 1 second over. Good points there, though, and it's good to see it from a different point of view as well. So well played there, Dave. To be fair,
yeah, all sound advice that.
Yeah, indeed. Now, it's James's turn with a title that already says plenty, which is Bad Company Got a Bad Deal. Was it bad luck, bad timing, or the music business doing what it does best? Stopwatch ready, options loaded, and history about to be poked with a sharp stick, courtesy of Mr. Gaden. Off you go.
So this is about Bad Company being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They were one of the biggest rock bands of the 70s, so they should have been inducted long ago. But as usual, the Hall of Fame dragged their feet and ignored them, and basically just waited until, well, we'll induct the original lineup, but not the subsequent lineups, even though the Brian Howe era had 2 gold records and a platinum. We'll ignore that. And they basically waited until 2 of the original 4 were dead. And then Paul Rodgers wasn't well enough to perform. So what we ended up with was Simon Kirk and a half-assed, unrehearsed jam with Nancy Wilson, Joe Perry and Bryan Adams that sounded awful. If they'd have inducted everybody who's in Bad Company, you would have had Robert Hart there, who was a very capable vocalist, who could have done a really good job, and you could have seen Bad Company, in some form, get the plaudits they deserve. But as usual, they got shafted by a Hall of Fame who don't know what they're doing.
Oh, there we go, yeah. I don't think anyone would be pushed to disagree with any of that, to be fair. I mean, yeah, like you said, they were shat on from a great height, basically. I know Dave's of the same opinion, I think, as well.
Absolutely. I mean, as you said, Robert Hart, Company of Strangers Alone is just a superb album. But it just questions the whole thing behind the Hall of Fame rather than Bad Company. We know who came out looking like idiots, and it wasn't Bad Company to me.
No. See, I'm going to go see the Bad Company Legacy in May, which is Robert Hart and Dave Colwell, and currently Chris Charles and Harry James.
Yeah.
So they're going to do justice to the Bad Company back catalogue. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. And this is what I mean. It's when a band gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, it should be everybody who's in the band, not just, we'll only have those guys or only those guys. If you'd inducted the whole lot, it wouldn't have been a problem. But it's like, we'll only induct that bit, and all the other stuff that came, we'll just ignore that, even though it was really successful and well liked and kept the name going and allowed there to be a reunion. That didn't count. It makes no sense to me. If you was in the band, you was in the band. So you induct the band, you induct everyone who was in it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, again, viewers, what do you reckon? I think the two chaps absolutely hit it on the head. Absolutely perfect with what they've said. So, yeah, let's see what you think. Obviously, comment below. Let us know your views as well. Are Bad Company, or was Bad Company just shite company for that night? And is Dave right as well? Should these artists be starting to take more responsibility? Let us know. Right, time for the main topic. And as promised at the start of the show, we're trying something dangerously new. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to agree on the definitive top 5 Queen studio albums. Will we succeed? Let's just say history is not on our side for this one. We're all massive Queen fans, which should help in theory. In practice, this is the same group of people who couldn't agree on a meal, even if the menu only had one option. The rules are simple. No live albums, no greatest hits, studio albums only. Pay attention, Dave. And they must feature Freddie, Roger, John and Brian. No Paul Rodgers, no Adam Lambert. Great singers, don't get me wrong, but this is about Queen being Queen. We'll each reveal our number 5 album first and then work our way up to our own personal favourite. After that comes a real entertainment, the inevitable carnage as we all attempt to agree on a definitive top 5. May the force be with us, because we're going to need it. I'm going to kick things off, and I just want to start by saying I thought this would be easy, chaps. But bloody hell, what a nightmare. I mean, whose stupid idea was this segment? Yeah, fuck off, Dave. Thanks a lot, chaps. Right, anyway. So my 5th place choice, which gave me a massive headache, to be fair, as it changed several times. But in the end, sheer heart attacks just pipped several others. Released in 1974, it still has that lovely raw sound of a group learning their own sound, but becoming more of a polished act. And with songs such as Killer Queen, Lily of the Valley, Now I'm Here and Stone Cold Crazy, you can't go far wrong with it. So yeah, that one made my 5th place. Dave, what made your 5th place?
It was Innuendo from 1991. I mean, I think it's worthy of inclusion for the title track alone, because it's just brilliant. Probably the best thing to me that they've done for years. But to pull together an album that good at that particular time, given they obviously knew the situation with Freddie, his health was declining, but it just shows the fire and determination, not just from him, but from everybody in the band, that made Queen far and away above everybody else, and still does to this day.
Yeah. James?
So for a very similar reason to Dave, but a different album, I've picked Made in Heaven as my 5th one. The reason being, like Dave said, when they were doing Innuendo, Freddie's health was failing. We all could see that on the videos and things like that. And during the Innuendo sessions, he said to each of the other 3 members, write me as much stuff as you can, and I'll lay down as much stuff as I can so you can make use of it when I'm gone. And that's what they did. So after losing Freddie and doing the tribute concert, they decided that they had to gather around and put together what they had left as a farewell to Freddie album. And what they came up with, when you think about what a backward way of working that was for guys who were used to being a band, they've now got their lead singer's finished vocals, but without any actual real tracks to go with it. You've got to build it in reverse. And for them to do that and take some of the old songs that had been issued before as B-sides or with The Cross or with Brian's solo stuff and rebuild them into Queen songs, every one of those songs that they took is better on Made in Heaven than the original version. They all have that Queen magic about them. And I think for them to have done that under those conditions and come up with an album as good as Made in Heaven, the way people get, it's a bit of a rip-off. Some of this stuff was out before. Yeah, but it never sounded as good as it did on there. And I think for him to turn out that album as a farewell to Freddie is monumental.
Yeah, okay. Fair play. So I've got Sheer Heart Attack, Dave's got Innuendo, James has got Made in Heaven, and one hell of a passionate speech for 5th place. Hate to feel like what the top place is going to be. Anyway, right, 4th place then for me is The Works. In my mind, at least, this is the one that restored Queen back to their lofty perch. It's Queen through and through. Great songs, great writing, and the band sounded like they were having fun again. Songs like obviously Radio Gaga, Machines or Back to Human, Hammer to Fall, and Is This the World We Created? Simply marvellous. Dave, your 4th?
My 4th's A Kind of Magic from 1986. Now, I did consider The Works as my 4th. And I think this one just edges it for me because what it seems to do is it seems to be a regalvanised Queen, particularly on the back of that Live Aid performance at Wembley. I mean, they stole the show on that day. They were head and shoulders by far and away the best band. And I think that rejuvenated that spirit within and that all that got poured into this album. I know that it's kind of seen as the unofficial soundtrack to Highlander. And soundtrack albums generally don't work as albums, they work as an accompaniment to a film, but this is the complete opposite. Everything about it just screams Queen. I mean, One Vision says it all. Absolutely brilliant.
James?
So both of those are great albums and both of those were vying for my top 5, but I'm going to go controversially for my number 4. My number 4 is Night at the Opera, which most people have a lot higher. And the reason for that is, yes, it was Queen's first number 1 album, and yes, it was the one that sort of made them a big name. But while it's always classed as a classic album, and yeah, it's got Bohemian Rhapsody, it's got You're My Best Friend, it's got Love of My Life on it, I think it's slightly overrated in the fact that it's got what I consider to be some real filler on there. Good Company would not, in any poll, be one of Brian May's best songs. Same would go for Sweet Lady. I think that, as rockers go by Brian May, that would be right near the bottom. And then Seaside Rendezvous is basically a novelty track when you've got made up fake brass and woodwind and tap dancing, all done by Freddie and Roger just messing about. I would consider those filler songs. So as good as it is, and as groundbreaking as it is in like it made Queen famous, I think it's overrated. So it's coming in at my top 5, but it's number 4.
Man, we're going to fall out, I tell you, because my number 3 is A Night at the Opera. It's classic, man. It's classic. Some of the songs, Bohemian Rhapsody, Prophet's song, Death on Two Legs. I'm in Love in My Car and Love of My Life. I love this album. I just listen to it on repeat. It's brilliant. I mean, it's lavish. Fillers, man, honestly. To quote from a certain football pundit, I can't speak. I can't speak. Dave, take over.
Well, Pete gets over himself. My number 3 is Queen 2 from 1974, which was when James really was just a twinkle in the milkman's eye. I think this is the one, as good as the debut was for a rock band at the time, I think Queen 2 was the one that really focused the enthusiasm, the exuberance that they got, and actually channeled it into something that established an embryonic sound for which they would build on and become what they actually did, in the end. The final version of Seven Seas of Rye, for example, which had appeared as a sort of little brief instrumental at the end of the debut album, it showcased to me, it was great to see how it had developed as a song, but it showcased just what was behind it, how clever they were at piecing things together as songwriters. It just established the hard rock credentials, because that's what they were at the time. They were just seen as another hard rock band. But when you then get to tracks like Father to Son or March of the Black Queen, they were dropping strong hints at what was to come in the future. And I just think, as commendable as the debut was, I think that Queen 2 was the first one that really said, yeah, this is something special.
Go on, James, have your say if you must.
What about Queen 2?
No, your next choice, your third place.
So, okay, my third place is The Miracle. And the reason I've gone for that is, you both alluded to A Kind of Magic and The Works, which are both phenomenal albums, and I love them to death. But in that 80s period, The Miracle, I think, is the one that's the best balance of what Queen is. The reason it's got all 4 faces merged into one is because it's the first album where they actually all shared complete credit. And I think you've got on that one, while The Works is phenomenal, it's not particularly rocky. And whereas The Miracle, it's about half and half. You've got half of it, which is sort of a throwback to original hard rock roots, and the other half's the more commercial 80s stuff. And I think the balance of it, on the one end where you've got Khashoggi's Shit and Party and I Want It All and Was It All Worth It on the hard rock side, and then you've got things like Breakthrough and Scandal on the other side, where you've got hits meshed in with the hard rock. I think it's the most well-balanced Queen album for many, many years. Everyone was weighing in with ideas. It's hard to say, because all the credits are split evenly, which ones, that's definitely a Freddie song, that's definitely a Roger song, because it does sound, it's just a Queen album through and through. So I remember Roger Taylor saying at the time it was one of the best ones that they'd done. So I was like, well, if they thought that, I definitely think that.
Yeah, okay, fair point. I must admit, as an aside, the 12-inch single, is it single of The Invisible Man? They put it right at the end, didn't they? Oh, my God, it's the intro to that. That's a mind blower, is that? But yeah, okay. Second place for me. Oh, this was a ball ache as well. This one bounced back and forwards between first and second. But I think it just gets beaten to second place by the width of a cat's whisker, and that's his Innuendo. Even though we said it before, even though Freddie was ill, it still sounds magnificent. It's practically perfect for me, apart from that one song about his bloody cats. It's a great song, but really? Cats? I don't know. I'm sure there must have been another rocker that could have taken its place, but, the title track is epic. I'm Going Slightly Mad is just quintessential Queen, and the show must go on gets me every single time. So, yeah, just pipped into second place. Dave? Okay.
Now, given that I couldn't pick the awesome Life Killers because, as you heard at the very beginning, Pete spat his dummy out, my choice for second place was a bit of a toss-up between Sheer Heart Attack and News of the World. I went for Sheer Heart Attack from 1974 in the end because I think it was where, having gotten to the stage where they'd established themselves as a really strong rock band with Queen 2, Sheer Heart Attack came along and said, no, we're not just a rock band, we're so much more. And this was the album that actually began that transformation. Everybody talks about Night at the Opera, and that was where, if you like, Queen came fully formed. But I think without Sheer Heart Attack, the difference between that, Queen 2, and Night at the Opera would have been too big for lots of people to swallow. So you've got Sheer Heart Attack. I mean, you've got stuff on there it's much more sophisticated. Queen, Killer Queen itself, it's timeless. Brighton Rock, Stone Cold Crazy, absolutely a fantastic album, and it still sounds great today. It still sounds relevant to me.
Fair enough. Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I love Sheer Heart Attack, so yeah. Right, we're going to go over to James, and looking at his choices, I wouldn't be too surprised if he's going to pick bloody Hot Space now. You watch.
I've saved that for number one. No, my second place choice is The Game.
Oh.
The Game is a phenomenal record. It is such a good collection of songs. Freddie is on top form when he can come out on one end with Play the Game at the piano, and then at the other end he can write Crazy Little Thing Called Love in the bath. He was on top form on that album. John Deacon really came in swinging with this one. He came in with another one, Bites the Dust, which completely overshadows Need Your Loving Tonight, which is really good as well. Every song on it's class, and it's another one where they all came in with some really strong songs. I don't think there's a dud on it anywhere to be found. So yeah, that's my number two.
All right, that's a good choice. That's the one that bounced back and forward between number 5 and maybe Sheer Heart Attack. The Game, I just couldn't. Oh, it's a nightmare. Right, so now we're getting to our first place, our all-time favourite Queen albums. And for me, it has to be A Kind of Magic. The album's faultless, in my opinion. As Dave's already said, One Vision sets the bar ridiculously high, and it's continuously raised in my opinion. Yes, it's the soundtrack to The Wonderful Highlander. We all know that. But what an album. It's, to me, a true torchbearer to the phrase, all killer, no filler. So, yeah, Kind of Magic, my top Queen album. Dave?
Well, perhaps not surprisingly, at least for James, my top Queen album, again, given that I couldn't pick Live Killers, was The Night at the Opera, 1975. That song alone makes it arguably one of the greatest albums ever produced. The song it's in a level all on its own. Whatever you think about, everybody knows Bohemian Rhapsody. Whatever you think about it. But it's so much more than that. Things like Death on Two Legs, You're My Best Friend, and then Sir Brian May's epic The Prophet song. It was a band that had now, as I said, alluded to earlier, that arrived fully formed. We're Queen. We're not just a rock band. We're so much more. We're going to do it on our terms. And that's exactly what they did going forward.
Seriously.
And this was the start of it. This was the blueprint for everything that came after, I think.
Yeah. What great phraseology there as well, Dave. You know, Death on Two Legs, You're My Best Friend. Brilliant. Oh, I'm almost afraid now to ask this one. Go on, James. What have you picked for your number one all-time favourite Queen album?
Sheer Heart Attack.
Oh, yes.
And the reason for that is, like Dave said with Queen 2, they hinted at what was to come, but they hadn't quite found it yet. I think they did with Sheer Heart Attack. That, for me, is the first album where Queen became Queen as we know it. You've got everything on there. You've got Brian May with Brighton Rock and Now I'm Here, just unbelievable. Roger came in one of his best songs with Tenement Funster. You've got Freddie on just ridiculously top form. Lap of the Gods, you've got the falsetto in there, which became part of Queen's signature sound, especially in the 70s. You've got the hard, heavy stuff like Stone Cold Crazy, meshed with real lightweight stuff like Lily of the Valley. It covers all the bases. So for me, it's just a masterpiece of 70s rock music. And it's so much more than what most bands could do. Because who else could have Big Bad Leroy Brown on there as a track and have it fit? But it fits perfectly on there.
Right. Well, there you go, viewers. We've named our top 5 Queen albums. As I feared, not one of our listings actually matches anyone else's. So we've got 9 different albums, I think, named. None of the others are in the same order as anyone else. So this is going to be fun. Now we've got to try and work out our top definitive 5 Queen albums. So number 5, what are we going to say, chaps? Because I had Cher, a heart attack. Dave had Innuendo. James had Made in Heaven. So what we're going to go with? I'm not sure about Made in Heaven. I understand your reasons for it, James. I do, but
I don't mind shunting Made in Heaven because I absolutely adore the works. I adore Kind of Magic, and there isn't a Queen album I don't like. The reason I put Made in Heaven there, partially from an emotional point, is it's the only Queen album that I was able to get when it came out.
Yeah, no.
I think if you look at the choices and the age gap between the three of us, I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, definitely.
James picked Sheer Heart Attack, which I'd be quite happy to put at number 1. He picked that, but most of his were back end loaded, if you like.
Yeah.
Mine was more front end loaded because I remember Queen as the rock band and whatever. And I almost after Hot Space, I almost gave up on Queen. I'm glad that didn't appear in anybody's top 5 because to me it was just it wasn't Queen, and I know that the idea behind Queen is that we're not just this, we're not just that, we're a mix of everything. But that to me was a step too far, and the whole thing with Bowie to me had gone too weird at that point in time, and it was just that everybody wanted to record a track with Bowie, and I think that it was almost like they were trying to prop up one another's career. But it's there aren't many bands that I can think of like Queen who've progressed right through. The only other band that springs to mind is Led Zeppelin. No 2 albums sounded the same. And you could argue that Queen and Queen 2 sounded the same. And to a certain extent they did. But from there, it kept changing. It grew and changed. And I think that James came into it later on, and obviously then went back. Whereas you and I, Pete, were perhaps there more towards the... I mean, I wasn't there at the early days. I was, 8 when the debut came out, for example. Well, it was 73, wasn't it? You could look at it, Pete. You look at what's named 3 times.
Well, I was going to
Sheer Heart Attack named 3
we
times.
all have Sheer Heart Attack in, don't we? So are we saying that deserves to be at the bottom half of the spectrum or in the top half? Are we pushing for?
Top? Because none of us put it that low, did we? I know you had it. Was it yours first?
I had it 5th, yeah.
I had it 2nd.
And I had it 1st, so I think that makes it's got to be higher up.
So we're saying that Sheer Heart Attack has got to be either 1 or 2 or possibly 3.
Yeah.
Let's park that one at the moment. So Sheer Heart Attack definitely going to be in the top part. We just don't know where yet.
And we all have Night at the Opera.
We all have Night at the Opera. Yeah, you had it down as 4th. I had it down as 3rd. Dave had it down as 1st. So again,
they're broadly equivalent.
Yeah. So
the point I would make is when Dave was saying about Night at the Opera, he said because it's got Bohemian Rhapsody, that sort of stands on a level of its own. I think there's a big element of if Bohemian Rhapsody had appeared on Day at the Races or Sheer Heart Attack, everyone would be saying that's the Queen classic album.
I really did struggle with Night at the Opera and Day at the Races.
Yeah.
It's just trying to play. I mean, Day of the Races, if you'd have released that as a double album, a Night at the Opera followed by a Day at the Races, it would have been arguably the greatest album ever released. Yeah. Certainly in the 70s. But
this is what I mean. I think, all right, Pete, you said that you can listen to Night at the Opera all the way through and you just absolutely love it. I do too. But when Seaside Rendezvous comes on, I consider that like a novelty filler track. I don't believe there's any Queen fans out there going, I can't wait for Seaside Rendezvous. It's never, it doesn't feature anywhere in any Queen fans' dream set list or any Queen fans, like major playlist.
I think that's what's part of the appeal.
Exactly. You sort of, it's coming on the album. It's just one of those songs that you can't help but smile to in some respects. Yes, it's a daft song. You're quite right, James, in some respects. It's a daft, silly little song. But then again, so's Delilah.
Yes.
And that one, I don't know what it is with that one. Every time it comes on, I just go, oh, for the love of God, it's a cat. Well, so, I get what you're saying.
Even the other Queen guys didn't want to do Delilah. They did it for Freddie. I mean, Brian and Roger particularly were very like, this is fucking terrible. But
I think, though, that what it does is that to be, because you've got a mix of tracks like that just are completely off the wall and different from one another, I think that's what, in essence, Queen had become. You could argue the toss that there is no 100% brilliant album out there anywhere from anybody. because 100% Brilliant says, right, everybody else go home. You're never going to top this. You don't need to listen to anything else ever again. But I just think that the mix, because it was so important in not just Queen's history, but in the history of rock music and what it would become, that to me is where Night of the Opera sits. That's why it sat at the top. I think it's their defining moment. Is it perfect? No. But I could then level the case at any of the Queen albums that none of them are 100% perfect. They've all got some great songs, but some of them are a little bit repetitive. Some of them, like you say, are a little bit off the wall. I know it's Horses for Courses. It's a difficult one, but what have we all got? We've got Sheer Heart, we've got Night of the Opera.
Yeah.
So they really need to feature.
They do, but are we saying
what
are we saying
top
half or the bottom half, Dave? What are we saying? Night of the Opera, top half or bottom half?
I think at this stage, let's just hold on a minute.
We could do that with 9 albums. We've got to pick a top 5.
Yeah, I mean, we could just say bugger it and put Life Killers top and go with the pub, but
there was no live albums allowed. You knew the rules when we came in. So,
yeah, but I can break the rules.
No, you can't. Not this time because I've got the mute button.
So what else had we got? Had we all got Kind of Magic?
I didn't put Kind of Magic in, but I would happily have Kind of Magic in because I love all the Queen 80s.
Yeah, I love Kind of. I think a Kind of Magic has to be not at the top. It has to be number 2, surely.
Yeah, as I say, that was another one. I struggled between that and The Works. But I just thought after that live performance at Wembley, I thought that they thought people do care. People are still interested. Yeah, that's it. We'll go in.
I think The Works is a bit more of a pop album. There's only really 2 out-and-out rockers on The Works. Not that the other songs are bad by any means, but the Kind of Magic definitely rocks harder.
Yeah.
So what? So we put The Works at number 5. What do we reckon, chaps?
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
I've got no problem with that.
Okay, so we finally get this, chaps. We finally managed to lock one in. The Works at number 5. Right. So now we're going number 4. Yeah, I've reviewed James's list, and I've got to admit, The Miracle is a bloody good shout. Because when I think about it, the more and more I think about it, there's some excellent songs on that as well.
As much as I love Kind of Magic, I do think there is one filler track on there.
Go on.
And it pains me to say it because Roger Taylor wrote it, but Don't Lose Your Head. I know it's sort of time with Highlander, but
brilliant track.
Yes, exactly, James. No.
Yeah.
Boo.
When you look at the Roger Taylor tracks he's written for Queen, would it be in your top 5? My chances is, I would say no. Would it be in your top 10?
Unfair. How many Queen songs are there? There were umpteen of the bookers.
Roger wrote, so, is it as good as Kind of Magic? No. Is it as good as Radio Gaga? No. Is it as good as Tenement Funster? No. I could go on and on and on.
Oh, I know, but is The Miracle better than Kind of Magic?
No, not to me. I don't get me wrong. When you consider how they'd Flash Gordon was let's not talk about that either.
Didn't make anyone's list.
They started to lose it a little bit, I think, with jazz. Jazz went too much of a left field. It was still a good album. I still quite have a lot of time for jazz. Then they came back. I always thought the game was more of a softy, poppy, let's try and get a mainstream audience interested again sort of album. It bottomed with Hot Space for me. And then the Works that came after was, this is Queen again. It was almost like, forget about Hot Space. This is not.
I know a lot of people. I mean, again, I'm genuinely surprised that James didn't name this one because, to be fair, I mean, Hot Space, yes, it was them being experimental, but I didn't half mind it, to be fair. I thought they had to do something a bit different, and I thought what they did well. And that thing about Bowie, I thought that was an excellent track. I thought they both complemented each other well. I mean, I understand why a lot of people didn't like it. And I mean, the fact that it didn't make any of our top 5 probably does speak volumes. But I think you're giving it a bit of an unfair time there, to be fair, Dan.
I genuinely love Hot Space, but I think you have to take it for what it is. In the same way, that if you listen to the Flash Gordon album, you're listening to it as this is a soundtrack album to a really daft, campy film.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be listened to as a serious studio album. And the whole thing with Hot Space is Freddie had turned around and says, I want to do some of that sort of black R&B kind of stuff. So that's what they did.
Yeah.
And as you said, people get so excited. It's only a bloody record. It was never meant to be a new direction for Queen. It was never going to be, well, this is what we do now. They just wanted to try it out. And when you hear those songs live at Milton Keynes, when they rocked up, some of those songs are fucking brilliant. They just don't necessarily come across in the studio setting when you have people like Arif Madden arranging the horns for them and doing it like an R&B funk record.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, and but like I said before, I think if I were picking all the Queen albums, putting them from best to worst, tying for bottom would be Hot Space and Flash Gordon.
Yeah,
they're both. Whereas the Flash Gordon was an official soundtrack, Kind of Magic wasn't an official soundtrack, and I think that, because they were writing music that was inspired by the film rather than to fit the film, I think that's what made the world a difference. I think that with Flash Gordon, they'd got, right, this is the storyline, we need some sort of music for this, we need this and this. And it put too much constraints on a band that didn't need constraining. Yeah. And I get why they might have released Hot Space straight after it, but it just, in the whole Queen canon, neither of them do anything for me.
I think part of it is also influenced because of Another One Bites the Dust.
Yeah.
When that was released, it became a surprise hit, especially in America. And it was getting played on like black radio stations that had never even heard of Queen. And it was like, it sort of crossed over into sort of a disco funk genre. And I think that sort of inspired Freddie to go, well, let's explore this because we haven't done that before. And it was short-lived because, as is well documented, he'd start doing something, then he'd sort of like, yeah, I've done that now, which is when he was doing Mr. Bad Guy, and then he had Monster at Caballé. He's like, I'm bored of this, I want to try opera. You know, that's the sort of person he was. He didn't really do labels, he didn't really do genres, he just did what he felt. Right,
we're trying to get this back on track somehow. We've still got to pick our fourth place album. Now we've argued the merits of Hot Space and Flash Gordon. I'm quite happy to say Innuendo was fourth. I know I've got it down as my second place, but you know, when I look at some of the other stuff as well, I mean, Dave and I, we've both got it in our list. Dave, you've got it as fifth. James hasn't picked it at all.
It was close. It was difficult.
I see where you're coming from, and you could almost argue that Innuendo and Made in Heaven were an extended session. Because Freddie recorded the vocals at the same time. Now, I know that they'd not got the instrumental back into it properly, and it was only really kind of demoed, but it had shaped it. There was only so much that they could do. So you could almost see it. Like I say, the two flow together. And whilst there are some brilliant tracks on Made in Heaven, I think there are some brilliant tracks on Innuendo, but it would always be that title track for me. Because when that came out, you're thinking, Christ, this is Queen going back to the sort of Bohemian Rhapsody, the big grandiose type of sound. And that came as a really nice surprise when it first came out. And that's why I would pick Innuendo over Made in Heaven.
Yeah, no, I'll go along with that. Because, like I said, I ummed and ahed between Innuendo and Made in Heaven, back and forth. I'm not a big fan of Delilah, but it is what it is. But the rest of it, there's some really cool stuff on there. Like Dave says, you got like the sort of big epic title track. You got some real out and out rockers like Headlong and the Hitman. I'd have no problem putting Innuendo in there.
Okay, so fourth place, Innuendo, special shout out to Made in Heaven. Right, number 3. So we've already said that the top 3 that we kind of had were A Kind of Magic, Sheer Heart Attack, and A Night at the Opera. I'm tempted to say Night at the Opera for number 3.
Yeah, I could go along with that.
I could go four, so moving it to 3 is no problem.
You could argue that the real seed change for Queen was Sheer Heart Attack, because they started as a rock band with Queen. They'd nailed it as a rock band with Queen too. They'd showed that they were more than a rock band with Sheer Heart Attack, and hinted quite literally at times at what was to come. So you could argue that while people will say that, well, Night at the Opera is groundbreaking, partly because of Bohemian Rhapsody, but you could say that, well, without Sheer Heart Attack, that wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have been allowed that artistic freedom. They couldn't have continued as the band that were Queen too. And Sheer Heart Attack was that, them flicking the switch. Saying,
I think the key there is, like you said, Bohemian Rhapsody. They were basically broke when they made Sheer Heart Attack. So Night at the Opera was like the Hail Mary. We'll just throw everything at the kitchen sink. If they'd have just released Bohemian Rhapsody, they could conceivably still have done what Night at the Opera did. Because, like you say, it's that big a deal.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff on Night at the Opera, you look at like your average Queen fan who maybe just buys the greatest hits, they'll only know 2 songs off Night at the Opera.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we say Night It Up number 3. Yeah, cool. Right, so then that leaves the two, if you all agree, the two top heavyweights slugging it out, A Kind of Magic and Sheer Heart Attack. Which one is going to get picked for that top spot?
For me, it has to be Sheer Heart Attack out the two.
I'll go along with that, yeah.
I don't really see how you can put A Kind of Magic over Sheer Heart Attack.
I would pick Sheer Heart Attack over A Kind of Magic every day of the week.
Right, okay. Well, I can... I don't know, bastard. Oh, yeah. I mean, I had it down at 5. What did you have it down as, Dave? You had it down as 2, didn't you?
2, yeah.
James had it down as 1. So I suppose... Oh, do I fight for A Kind of Magic? I mean, I love Sheer Heart Attack as well.
It's like lining your 10 children up. You've got to shoot 5. It's, you know.
Next time we do one of these stupid top 5 albums of whatever group, let's pick one that I really don't like, and then it makes it easier for me because this is killing me. I thought this would be easy when we started this, and I thought, oh yeah, this will be a piece of piss, and then
it's not.
It wasn't. It really
not.
I'm struggling to name my top 10 Queen albums, and they only make 15.
All right, guys. Yeah, go on. I'll capitulate this time. So 2 were saying A Kind of Magic. 1 we're going to go with Sheer Heart Attack.
Now we're going to get a load of hate mail because we haven't put that.
We're going to get absolutely roasted out. Everyone's going to say, "Why don't you stand up for A Kind of Magic?" Right, okay. So we are saying on Pyrotechnics, the definitive, I use that word very loosely now, top 5 Queen studio albums are at number 5, The Works, number 4, Innuendo, with a special mention to Made in Heaven, number 3, A Night at the Opera, number 2, against my better judgment, is A Kind of Magic, and sitting at number 1 is Sheer Heart Attack. That's what we're saying.
But if you listen to 5 of the other albums, you'll still really enjoy yourself.
Exactly. And to be fair, if you listen to all of them, including Hot Space, don't listen to these lot. This lot don't know anything. Hot Space, I think it's a superb album. Just not going to debate my top 5. Oh, my Lord. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to say this next one, and I'm going to regret it. Now comes the important part. Do you agree with us? Have we nailed it with precision of Brian May's guitar harmonies, or have we made a right royal cock-up of the entire thing? I have a sneaking suspicion which way this is going to go. Don't sit on the fence. Tell us your top 5. Did you agree with any of our top 5s? Did we get it spot on for you, or does somebody need their Queen fan club card revoking immediately? Get stuck in the comments. Let us know. We can take it, probably. Just don't mention Hot Space, otherwise these two won't shut up for God knows how long.
Stop lumping me in with the Hot Space haters. I love Hot Space.
Too late now. Too late. No. You didn't pick it in your top 5.
No, I didn't.
I did, to be fair. None of us did. So, there you go. Right. Okay. Right. Having trawled the far corners of the internet in search of the most dopey, unpopular opinion in the world of rock and metal, this absolute beauty fell straight into my lap. It actually popped up when Def Leppard dropped their new song, Rejoice. Now, as you do, I was casually scrolling through the comments, fully expecting the usual mix of legends, love this, brilliant song, and also not as good as Hysteria, which seems to pop up all the time, when I stumbled across this nugget of debatable pure gold. So this is the unpopular opinion. Our brave keyboard warrior not only roasted Rejoice, but went one step further and declared that Pour Some Sugar on Me is basically a pop music song wearing a leather jacket. According to him, Def Leppard are rock frauds, con artists, the Milli Vanilli of Sheffield. Bit strong, I thought. Naturally, this calm and balanced take was met by a wave of very polite, measured responses, many of which suggested one helpful place he could shove his opinion for safekeeping. But here's the thing. Does he actually have a point? Is Pour Some Sugar on Me a pop song in rock drag? Are Def Leppard secretly a boy band with guitars? Or is this just another case of, I don't like it, therefore it's crap, it isn't rock, etc., etc.? Dave, over to you. Defend the honour of the Leopard, or don't. This could get spicy.
Def Leppard started out as a band that were part of the new wave of British heavy metal. It soon became quite apparent that they didn't sit comfortably with a lot of the bands that were in there. They were more commercial. But you could argue against the same sort of thing against bands like Praying Mantis. They never were that sort of chugga, heads down, let's see who can get the end of the song first. There was always a bit more to them than that. I think that Mutt Lange shaped them into something new, shaped them into something that he'd got a vision for. And he'd already tested out on Foreigner, he'd already tested out on AC/DC. If your definition of rock and metal stopped in about 1975, you could argue the point that Leppard were a pop version of that. But to actually say that they were a pop band in a leather jacket, nah, listen to some of the albums, mate. Just listen to the songs. Yeah, you're talking bollocks.
Originally, I was going to give this slot to James, and then I realised James didn't like Def Leppard, so I was going to say, protect their honour. I was expecting James to go, no, bollocks, it's shit. So go on, James, go and give us your take on this.
I kind of see where the guy's coming from, but I do think he's gone far too over the edge with his opinion. Because you put up on our socials about Hysteria when is it classic, bang average, whatever, and some people saying classic, but my opinion sort of tallied a little bit with what that guy was saying. Whereas I felt that, like Dave said, they started off as a new wave of British heavy metal, but by the time Hysteria came out, yes, it sold a gazillion units, but it was polished to death. To me, it's more of a pop album, which has some guitars in it. And the reason I say that is partly due to the production that Mutt Lange did. I remember being in a taxi and the guy had Planet Rock on in the taxi, which was right up my street. And the journey encompassed 3 songs on Planet Rock, which was Dude Looks Like a Lady by Aerosmith, Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard, coincidentally, and More Than a Feeling by Boston. One played one after the other. And the Def Leppard song sounded so thin and polished and poppy in comparison to the other 2, even though they're all like big rock songs. And I was listening to it just purely like as a production. I was like, yeah, that is, it's like, it's so layered and cleaned up, and it's not, rock and roll's supposed to be like dirty and sleazy and attitude, and there's none of that in there. It is a studio album, studio perfection, you could argue, definitely, because the amount of work that's gone into that, the amount of layered guitars, the amount of layered vocals, yeah, it's achieved, like Dave said, a sonic vision. But how rock and roll is that? I don't think that Hysteria, despite as many albums as it sold, can live with Whitesnake's 1987, or can live with Bon Jovi's Slippery and Wet, or can live with Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, all of which came out around the same time. For me, that would be the lightweight one of the 4 I've just named.
Well, viewers, what do we say, eh? Do you agree with Dave? Do you agree with James? Do you agree with the original poster? I mean, Def Leppard, are they really not a hard rock group anymore? Are they more of a poppy rock kind of group? Obviously, give us your opinion. And for those people that really love Def Leppard and want to string up James, I'll be giving out his email address at the end of this program.
I will say that it's called Def Leppard like a Milli Vanilli. That's ridiculous. We've got some incredible talent in that band. But I do think they've been polished to death.
Yeah, I mean that was trying to over egg his pudding somewhat. I mean, Milli Vanilli were exposed as frauds that didn't sing or play on their own records. Yeah. You can't level that at Leppard.
Absolutely.
I think that there was a lot of stuff, and Slippery When Wet that you mentioned, James, gets a lot of love, and in a lot of respects, I think that Appetite for Destruction was a much more honest rock and roll sounding album. Slippery When Wet was very much a there's a sound that we can see is building. Let's capitalize on that. And to be fair, it came out before Hysteria, but let's capitalize on that. Let's see if we can get all the girlies out there to buy it, because that's half our audience potentially that we're not hitting at the moment. So let's make them pretty boys. Let's make a sound that the girls can dance to, and we'll double our sales. We did pretty much is what it did. But I just think that there aren't many key points in any decade that you can point to that changed the face of something. I think there are only a couple in the 80s. I think Hysteria were one of them. I think probably people would argue Operation Mindcrime was another one, although you could level the same thing at Rage for Order, the one that came before it. And then probably Appetite for Destruction turned the whole thing on its head. I think they're the 3 pivotal moments in the development of rock, and I think that's the key to it. If your vision of rock is it has to sound like Deep Purple did in 1973, then clearly Def Leppard's something different. It's much more commercial. It's much more accessible. It's going to hit more people. But to say it's not rock, it's just silly. The guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right, well, there you go. The guys have pitched their opinion on this unpopular opinion. Do you agree with them? What do you think? Let us know. Again, comment below. We want debate. We want you to join in. So, give us your thoughts and feelings. It may well be that we're talking crap. We're big enough and ugly enough to be able to handle it. So if you think we are, then tell us. We won't cry too much, at least. Well, you never know. Okay, so let's park the bus on that one and go on to the next segment where we've reached that dangerous point in the show where restraint is abandoned, if it could be any more anyway, and the rock and metal crapper comes into play. James is sharpening his knife for old school journalism, calling out the habits that refuse to die. Meanwhile, Dave, either bravely or foolishly, has taken aims at Vinnie Vincent. Yes, that Vinnie Vincent. The poor sod's probably never seen it coming. And I'm also going to have a bit of a chip in with this one called Read the Musical Room, Man. So steady yourself, brace for impact. The rants are loaded, the flush handle is wobbling, and once this lot's cut loose, there's no turning back. The only question is, are all three of them going straight down the crapper? James, give us your best pitch.
So the reason I've said old school journalism is because I see a lot of people going on about the old day. Oh, Kerrang! Those were the days and all that. And the three of us, and everybody at Fireworks for that matter, work really hard on our interviews and our reviews. We try and make sure that they're factual. We try and make sure we give everyone a fair shake. We try and make sure we put things across properly. We're not after sensationalism and things like that. And the more I see of old journalism, that's basically all they did. Some of the stuff that I've read, I'm like, this is not aged well at all. This is piss poor. I remember seeing recently, it was a review of Kisses Hot in the Shade from Kerrang. And reading it, it didn't really tell you anything about the record, apart from the fact that there was 15 songs on it. It made a load of jokes at Kiss's expense. It used appalling spelling, like something off a Slade album, where it was writing things like tunes, but spelling it T-O-O-N-Z, and record as R-E-K-E-R-D, in an attempt, I assume, to be down with the kids. I don't really know. And
hip old man.
And during the so-called review, it mentioned Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, and then it referred to Bruce Kulick and Eric Carr as Thingy and What's His Name, which I'd consider incredibly disrespectful considering the amount that those two contributed to the Kiss legacy. And that's far from an isolated incident. This is the same magazine that spent more time writing about who was wearing a wig as to who was actually making a decent record. And I've had musicians tell me about a lot of these old school journalists used to taking the piss. I was like, that's not your fucking job. Your job is supposed to be reporting on the music. And when David Coverdale retired, Mick Wall wrote on his Facebook page about one of his David Coverdale anecdotes. And it was when Mick Wall was a young journalist and he decided the very next band he was sent to review, he was going to bury them, regardless of how they played, so he could make a name for himself as a writer. And that band turned out to be Whitesnake. So Mick Wall turns up at this gig, absolutely slaughters them, even though by all accounts they're really good. And it was a review that absolutely bothered David Coverdale for decades. And in Mick Wall's anecdote, it's like, but he was such a gentleman. He never even mentioned it in all the subsequent interviews we did. And I felt terrible about it. So you should. That's not your job. Your job is to report on the show, not try and put yourself over. And Coverdale himself, when he did the Deep Purple Whitesnake album, the Purple album, and he spoke to Dave Scott, and he was just like, I've just got off the phone from those bastards at Classic Rock. Because all they did was bury it. They weren't interested in reporting it. They were just mocking it. And I see more and more and more of this. Classic Rock is just an extension of Kerrang, where it just says stuff for the sake of it. We've talked about Queen. I remember the reason I stopped buying Classic Rock. I was like, this isn't even journalism. There was a review of Roger Taylor's album, Electric Fire, and I can still remember the quote because it annoyed me that much. It said, there are moments here which tell you this is the man who wrote A Kind of Magic. There are other moments which remind you at the end of the day, he was just the drummer. I'm like, what? So these people if you collected all the musicians that these people have slagged off, belittled, and taken the piss out of, and removed them from the face of the earth, all our lives would be a lot worse. If you removed all the people who've written these pieces off the face of the earth, none of us would notice any difference. So I want old school journalism flushing down the crapper, and I want it to continue like we do, where we actually do it properly with respect.
I think, to be fair, you've got your wish, mate, because anyone that refers to Bruce Killer, because what's his name and thingy bob, or what you said, was way out of order. And to be fair, you dish Roger Taylor, you take on us three. So, yeah.
The only thing I can say in Kerrang's defence, at the time, Syrup of the Week was funny. But I take exactly what you're saying, and I'd agree. It's not our role to take the piss. Where it's necessary, most of them do it themselves anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just our role as journalists is to report, offer opinions on albums we're asked to review, because that's what an album review is. It's an opinion, and there are millions of them. They're like arseholes or Four Descots in 80s. Everybody's got one, but nobody wants to hear it. What I try to do then is when people ask me about interviews, how should I approach an interview? You flip that. An interview's not about what you think.
No.
It's about what the subject that you're interviewing thinks. It's their point to shine, not yours. So yeah, that would get my vote 100%, even though Syrup of the Week were funny.
Right then, Dave. Vinnie Vincent, what has he done to piss you off?
Right, for anybody who's not heard, Vinnie Vincent has promised to release the greatest album that anybody's ever heard. But he's not doing it in the conventional way. He's going to do it almost like a crowdfunding sort of route, which a lot of bands do, and I get that. However, Vinnie's taking it one stage further. He's only going to press 1,000 of these things, but just to tease people even more, he's not going to do it for an album. He's going to do it one track at a time. And to buy into this, you've got to spend $200. So if you think about that, and even more, he's not doing it till they've all been sold, at least track by track. So you think about that. 1,000 copies, $200. Do the maths. Multiply that by 10 or 12 tracks for an album. Do the maths again. So are we going to pay $2.4 million, or 1,000 of us going to split that between us, for the best album of all time? Or are we going to tell Vinnie Vincent to go fuck himself? Which basically a lot of people seem to have done. Yeah. Because he's not reaching his targets, he's threatening never to do it. Well, I'm quite happy with that, Vinnie. Don't do it. To quote somebody, he was always that funny-looking guy who joined Kiss. And whilst I won't belittle Creatures of the Night, etc., the work that he did there, you still have to remember that Kiss was Gene and Paul. After Ace had gone, it was Gene and Paul. And it would always be Gene and Paul's band. And to try and claim that you had any more influence over any of the songs than those two is you're deluding yourself. Well, you're still deluding yourself, Vinnie. So bye-bye. Say hello to all the turds you meet once you've got round the U-bend.
I've got to admit, the thing that made me laugh about that was, I mean, he must have spent some money, obviously, or, to record it. And then his thing was, well, if you don't buy it, I'm not going to release it. It's like, well, the most emptiest threat on the planet. Well, don't release it then. See who gives a flying fig. And I just thought, of all the things you could have said, well, I'm not going to do this. Threatening not to release your own work is probably just like, well, go ahead, mate, don't do it. So, go on, James. What do you reckon to this one?
As I said to Dave the other day, at first I thought it was a publicity stunt. I was like, but for what? Because virtually nobody remembers who he is. At the end of the day, like Dave said, he came into Kiss and he helped, particularly during the 80s non-makeup era, he helped sort of put forward some really solid songs. But he never looked at home in Kiss. He never really suited Kiss in terms of image. He was a very good guitar player and songwriter, but Kiss had plenty of them. They didn't struggle without him. They didn't struggle before him. He was just a chapter in the thing. And then he had his own band, which most people remember for becoming Slaughter. They don't remember it as being Vinnie Vincent's Invasion particularly. And then he sort of just vanished. So I think the likelihood that he's suddenly produced the greatest album anyone's ever heard is statistically unlikely, to say the least. And his idea that, I'm only going to press 1,000 copies, but you've got to pay $200 per track. It's like, it doesn't work. I mean, it's like the Wu-Tang Clan did an album where they only printed one copy, and you could only hear it if you paid $2 million, and there was a 100-year no resale clause on it. And it was a gimmick because they knew nobody would ever pay that. But it was a gimmick that put them in the press. And I don't know if that's what Vinnie Vincent was attempting to achieve here, but the Wu-Tang Clan did do other things off the back of that press. And I don't see Vinnie Vincent doing that. He just seems to be like this sort of like angry dude yelling at people for not liking him enough. And I don't know what he's thinking, to be honest. I can't see even the most diehard Kiss fan being that interested because he was such a small part of history. I don't think he's going to be. I think he'd struggle to sell 100 copies, let alone 1,000.
Of one song.
Yeah.
Let alone 10 or 12 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah, I agree with Dave. I think it's a nonsensical idea. And to be fair, I don't think he's going to ever release it because I don't think enough people are going to be bothered. So, yeah, I think we can safely flush that one down without a care in the world.
The irony is more people will have bought that Gene Simmons vault with like 100 unreleased songs than will buy this.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is true. Right, I've got one, chaps. Mine is called Read the Musical Room Man. So I was recently in a very popular record shop. I won't name it, but if you reverse the letters VMH, you're going to roughly be in the right ballpark of where it was. And I bought some albums, and yes, they were on vinyl, and we're not going to get into that discussion again at the moment in time. So basically, you two zip it. But it was Alice Cooper, Gary Newman, Evanescence, and it was a CD actually of Def Leppard's Pyromania. I think it was the 40th edition. So I put them down on the counter, and the bloke's scanning them, and you can see he's nodding his head. He's going, oh yeah, as he's scanning them, and then he scanned them, and without missing a beat, he says, "Oh, by the way, we've got Dua Lipa reduced here. Would you like a copy?" And this was the one time that my mouth has actually followed my brain's instruction of, shut up, don't say a word, don't do anything, just be quiet. And so for about 10 seconds, I think I was probably doing an impression of a goldfish just going, thinking, he's honestly just said, after me buying Gary Newman, industrial metal, Alice Cooper, hard rock, Evanescence, metalish, I think it was her first album. It was one of those silly get 3 albums for 50 quid things. And then Def Leppard, hard rock. He's honestly asked me if I want Dua Lipa's latest one at a reduced price. Now, to make it even more funnier than my wife, who's in a wheelchair, that obviously I push, all I can see is her shoulders going up and down as she's roaring with laughter silently because she's exactly the same, thinking, for God's sake, don't say anything. So the best thing I could come out with was, no, I'm all right, thanks. And, I got my albums and I walked off. And I was like, I got about 4 steps out of the store and I was like, fucking Dua Lipa? Why on God's green earth, after I've just bought hard rock and metal, would I even want Dua Lipa? And I'm sure she's a very good artist in her own right, and I'm sure she's top of her genre, but read the musical room, man. I've got hard rock and metal. Why the hell would I want Dua Lipa?
I'll tell you exactly what's happened there. He's seen the Def Leppard album, thought, oh, this guy likes a bit of pop music.
I just couldn't believe it. I know he's got a job to do, and to be fair, he did it absolutely perfect. So like, he did not miss a beat. His timing was absolute comic gold. But just read the room, man. Is all I can say. It's like, yeah, of course, I really want Dua Lipa when I bought. It's like church fairing people buying the greatest hits of Cliff Richard and asking if they want bloody Metallica's thrash album thrown in for half price. You've got to read the room, surely. Am I being too silly? Was it a perfectly sensible suggestion?
And how many different responses did you think of once you got out of the shop, though?
Oh, many. And most of them would have landed me in prison.
You cut the ones with the swearing out. You'd still have hundreds, wouldn't you?
It sounds a bit like a throwback because HMV used to be like that all the time. And then when they got like
other record shops are available as well.
When they got they went in almost into administration at one point. Then there was like a rescue thing came in and they reopened. When that happened, they seemed to get staffed with much better people. But in the previous time, there was 2 examples which was sort of mirrored yours. My brother went in once to buy a Dio album, and he couldn't see it on the shelf. And he went and asked, he's like, "Have you got any Dio?" And the lass just looked at him and was like, "Oh." He said, "Dio." She went, "Celine Dion?" And he went, "Yeah, never mind," and just left. And my friend, he went in looking for a George Benson record, and he couldn't see it. And he was like, "I'm not sure whether it'd be filed under jazz or under pop, because obviously he's done a lot of different things." So he says, "Excuse me, do you have any George Benson?" And she was like, "Oh, who? George Benson?" She's like, I'll ask for you." And she turned around and shouted to the manager, "Andy, do we have any Jeff Benson?" So, but since then, they do seem to be staffed by better people. So I think you just had a slightly off day there, Pete.
Does it deserve to go down the crapper, though? Come on, chaps, help me out.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
Marvellous. There we go. All three swirling down the crapper. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Right. Okay, so normally at this point, we'll be wheeling out the lyrics game. The chaps usually love this. But to be fair, after the legendary amount of earache I've taken from these two about it, that game has been officially benched for this week, or this podcast, let's say. Medical advice was sought, painkillers were taken, and complaints were ignored. They really wanted it to be in, but I thought, no, we're not going to. So instead, we're going to put their supposed expert knowledge level to the test. Let's just see how well they really do know the bands they claim to love. Now, we've gone deep, very deep, on Queen earlier in the show. So for this challenge, James has bravely chosen Mr. Big, while Dave, in a move that will surprise absolutely nobody, has gone with AC/DC. Each of them will face 10 questions ranging from embarrassingly easy, so I don't expect them to get any of these wrong, to career-threateningly difficult. No lyrics, no humming, no "I knew that," but blanked excuses. Just code, hard rock and metal knowledge. So, crash helmets on, volumes up, egos at the ready. Dave, you're going to go first. I just need to find my answer sheet to some of these so I can...
Can you pass it to me so I can just have a look, make sure you're right?
No, I'm not good.
Yeah. If
Right then, Dave. So,
how do you spell AC/DC? I'm struggling.
He's screwed, ladies and gentlemen. The first question, in the easy category, may I add, which two brothers founded AC/DC? Malcolm and Angus. Sorry, the sound went a bit doolally there, which I don't know if that was you just trying to pull a fasty or it literally was the connection. Which was AC/DC's original lead singer before Brian Johnson joined the band?
It wasn't the original lead singer, but I think you're alluding to Bon Scott.
Here we go. Nitpicky. Which 1980 album, beg your pardon, marked Brian Johnson's debut with AC/DC? So 3 out of 3 on the easy section. Medium section. Which AC/DC song features the opening lyric, "She was a fast machine, she kept her motor clean"?
You shouldn't be all that long. You said there were no lyrics.
Stop being picky. You got the bloody thing right. What school uniform item is Angus Young famous for wearing on stage?
Well, I mean, you get a blazer, a cap, a school tie, shorts.
Yeah. He knows his stuff so far, you got to admit. Which AC/DC album features a hit single, Thunderstruck?
Razor's Edge.
Yeah. Right, going into the hard section. Which producer worked with AC/DC on Highway to Hell and Back in Black?
Langer.
Right, this one I hopefully might get him. What was the name of AC/DC's first internationally released album outside Australia, obviously?
It was High Voltage. It was a combination of the first two. It was a combination of TNT and High Voltage.
He's a smart ass, ladies and gentlemen. Right, so now into the very hard, the diehards category. Let's see if he really does know his stuff. Which AC/DC album was recorded at Compass Point Studios in the Bahamas?
Back in Black.
Oh, 9 out of 10. Is he going to make it the perfect sweep? Before joining AC/DC, what band was Brian Johnson the singer for?
Geordie.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, 10 out of 10. All hail Mr. Cockett. Indeed. Round of applause.
Only band I know anything about, so...
Only one he's getting, like, I can tell. Right then, James. Oh, my word.
I did all right, though. I got 8 of them in my head out of the AC/DCs.
I was going to say, that's laying the marker down, isn't it?
It is a bit.
So, James, you are a Mr. Big fan.
I am.
But are you a big know-all on Mr. Big fan, as you claim, or just a tiny tease? Not the first time that's been said to James, I must admit. Let's find out right then. Easy question first, James. You ready?
Yes.
Which guitarist is best known for playing in Mr. Big?
Paul Gilbert.
Yeah. What Mr. Big song became a global hit thanks to MTV in the early 1990s?
To Be With You.
Yes. Who was the original lead singer of Mr. Big?
Eric Martin.
He was.
He's the only lead singer for Mr. Big.
I was going to say. Right, going into the medium category. Which Mr. Big album features a hit single, To Be With You?
Lean Into It.
Which Mr. Big song is a cover of a Paul Gilbert era Racer X track? Is he stuck on a medium one, ladies and gentlemen? Surely not.
You're not thinking of Shy Boy, are you?
No.
No. I don't think... I'm genuinely not sure on that one.
Daddy, Brother, Lover, Little Boy, the Electric Drill song?
No, I did not know there was any Racer X connection to that.
Yeah, originally written during Paul Gilbert's Racer X era.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Oh. You can't see this, ladies and gentlemen, but I can see Dave now doing a victory lap around his study.
I don't think it needs to be in the nude, though.
Oh, I know, yeah. That's yeah.
We haven't got any big fig leaves, so I've got no option.
The censored bar will be coming up. Right, so where are we? Number 6. What year was Mr. Big's debut album released?
1989.
That's spot on. Back on form. Right, into the hard section. Which producer worked with Mr. Big on their breakthrough album, Lean Into It?
Kevin Olsen.
Yeah, spot on. Which famous bassist known for his work with Talis and David Lee Roth played in Mr. Big?
Billy Sheehan.
Into the very hard, the die-hard fan territory now. Which Mr. Big album was recorded primarily in Los Angeles and released in 1996 after Richie Kotzen replaced Paul Gilbert?
Get Over It.
No. Well, not according to my answer anyway. I've got Hey Man.
Well, Paul Gilbert was on Hey Man.
Oh.
That was Paul's last album.
We'll have to look into that. We'll get back to you on that one, viewers. And last one, what was the title of Mr. Big's final studio album released in 2024?
Oh, that was 10.
Yes, it was. Well done. Nice memory there. So we have possibly 8, possibly 9. We'll get back to you on the Hey Man one. But it doesn't really matter anyway, I'm afraid, James, because with a perfect 10 out of 10, Mr. Cockett's picture on that one.
Yeah, play.
Now, well done, Dave. Next, he's going to be answering questions on Shania Twain. We'll see how clever he is then, shall we?
Well, yours will be on Dua Lipa by the sound of it, Pete, so I won't get too smug.
That's the one good thing about being the host. I don't have to answer.
What did you say, James? Get Over It.
Oh, man.
That's the first Richie Kotzen one, yeah.
No, absolutely, Richie. The first Richie Kotzen album is Get Over It.
Paul left after Hey Man. He did the tour and then he quit to go solo and then brought Richie Kotzen in.
So 9 out of 10 then.
I'll take that.
Still lost.
Yeah, that's all right.
But yeah, 9 out of 10 sounds better than 9 out of 10. Right. At the beginning of all this madness, and it has been madness, I set the question to the two chaps. Which group out of the following have had the most number of studio albums that peaked at number 2 in the UK charts? The choices that they had were Def Leppard, AC/DC, Nickelback, Metallica, and Queen. So, guys, Dave, you go first. What is your answer?
A tough one.
I know.
Because, I mean, initially I thought Nickelback, but then I thought, well, Nickelback, as far as the UK singles charts, they've been quite sporadic in terms of what's hit. But whenever they come over here, they put bums on seats in arenas, and arena crowds generally tend to buy more albums. Then I thought Queen, but a lot of the Queen stuff's back-end loaded to the sort of days where you had to sell a serious wedge to get to number 1 and number 2. Whereas these days you have to sell about 7 copies and 3 downloads. I'm going to go Nickelback. That was initially my first thought. I don't know why. And it's probably wrong, but I think Nickelback.
Dave says Nickelback. Go on, James, give us your answer and your reasoning.
Well, the thing that sort of threw me was when you said peaked at number 2. So these are bands that have not reached number 1.
Yeah.
So that would mean I'm going to eliminate Queen because I know they've had a few number 1 albums. So then again, I was like looking at Nickelback. I don't think they've had many #1 albums, but like Dave said, they have no problem pulling in a crowd. So that would be a reasonable one. Because Dave's picked Nickelback, I would have gone for that, but there's no point. So no, because otherwise we're either both right or we're both wrong. So I'm going to go Metallica then.
Right. So Dave, Nickelback, James, Metallica. Right. The answers I have from the UK charts website is, let's start with Nickelback, which is what Dave said. And one album of theirs, All the Right Reasons, peaked at #2 and 2005. So yeah, Dave's choice of Nickelback had one album. James, you said Metallica. Hardwired to Self-Destruct peaked at #2 in the UK. So you've also got one album as well. AC/DC also had one confirmed #2 album, which was Blow Up Your Video in 1988.
A compilation, basically.
Def Leppard, no confirmed #2 peaks. So you're right to avoid them completely. Pyromania, I think, reached something like 13. Hysteria, obviously, we all know where that went. So yeah, no #2. So that leaves Queen, 3 #2 UK albums. Sheer Heart Attack peaked at #2. Jazz peaked at #2. And one that we've mentioned a fair few times already this episode, The Works, peaked at #2. So yeah, they had 3 #2 albums. So Queen was the right answer. It just goes to show, doesn't it, in some respects, the albums, the groups that you think would have had what they had don't necessarily have them at all. So yeah, it was Queen.
It's also, there's that thing where if you sell a lot of copies quickly, you'll be #1 and then you'll drop out the charts like a stone. Yeah. Or you could be #2 for like 8 months and you've actually sold way more copies, but you've never reached #1. It's a bizarre scenario, but that's how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Right, there you are. The dust has settled, the amps are cooling, and somehow we've survived another enthralling episode. Now we'll do what we always do at this point, stare into the distance and promise we'll be back quicker than ever next time. But this time we do mean it. Well, probably. Until then, everybody, enjoy issue 113. And as a tasty riff to play us out, let me tease you what's coming next for issue 114. Now, thankfully, Dave can't reach down the phone line and strangle me for revealing some of these. But to be fair, we already have done a little bit on our social media. We've got an awesome interview with Dave Mustaine coming, a cracking chat with Mr. Download himself, Andy Coppin, and we might even throw in a bit of Robin McCauley and Black Swan. But what bit, you ask? Well, you're going to have to buy issue 114 in March to find out. All we'll say, though, is it's absolutely going to be worth it. It is a fantastic lineup that we've sourced, and you're going to love it. But hey, save yourself the hassle of buying individual copies. Head on over to our website, fireworks-magazine.com, and grab yourself a subscription. It's cheaper in the long run, and thanks to the heroic efforts of James and Sarah, they get shipped in the UK before street release date, meaning you lucky subscribers get them before anyone else. So rock and metal fans, you love your exclusivity, so why not? Why not get a subscription? That just leaves us now to say goodbye. I've been your host, Peter Arnett. I hope you've enjoyed the chaos. It's goodbye as well for my co-host, Dave Cockett, who is now dangerously delirious. You all right there, Dave?
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Look forward to seeing you again next time, probably sometime in 2028.
And also from James, who I can now see merrily rocking gently in the corner. Say goodbye, James.
Goodbye, James.
Take care, everyone. And once we've recovered, we'll be back again.
All views heard in this podcast are from the individual and do not necessarily represent those of Fireworks Rock and Metal Magazine.